Welcome to our YouTube show, Awakening with Nirmann. I am Sadhana. Today we have Nirmann with us. Namaste.
Namaste. How are you, Sadhana?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, wonderful.
Thank you for coming in here
You're
with
welcome.
us. I have a couple of questions. My friend Fans Club, um, they have like curiosity about who Nirmann is.
Okay.
So today we're gonna ask a couple of questions about your struggle, about your journey on this path. Um, and my first question, I'm just waiting for my friends for the live chat. They're gonna send me questions also.
Okay.
But one common question will
Say my hello to
is
everyone
like,
and
yes,
thanks for being the fan club. I appreciate that.
No, they are your followers now.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that.
Some of them they transform, and some are struggling and they need some help. So that's our work. We're doing it, and we need your help in that too.
Yeah. Here for that.
So the first common question, which everyone is in their mind, financial freedom. Because you said like financial freedom in life is very important. So here we will start with financial freedom, and they have question for you that Nirmann himself, what he has done for his financial freedom,
Sure.
and your academic background and your struggle in all this.
Okay. I think we talked about it in the last episode that I was just like everybody else, born in a middle class family, nothing extraordinary, pretty normal circumstances. Had a regular schooling, went to some good schools.
So you're saying that you were from not from privileged family, but from a very basic or average.
Yeah, the reason is when we are talking financial freedom, I wasn't born in a family where my financial future was taken care of, where I need not work. So that's the reason I'm bringing it up. That when today I am financially free, it doesn't mean it was that way forever. This is not how things were. I had to do certain things, which is what we'll talk about, to get here. I don't think that we need to stress upon the fact that money is important, very important, and you cannot really serve the community or serve your own life or your own
Without education.
without, well, you can do it without education, but you certainly cannot do if you don't have a roof over your head, if you don't have good meals, and if you don't have a decent just lifestyle. Where if you're struggling for just your survival, then where is the time to really think anything else? That's my point. So you have to get money out of the way. That's the point. So what I did was I had to wait. It was very easy, very tempting, when you talk about spirituality and this alternate way of living, it's very tempting to pull the plug and leave everything and just focus on the spiritual path, meditation or whatever. And I had those temptations many times, but I resisted it because I was also smart enough to know that if I don't take care of my basic needs, then I cannot focus on meditation or prayers or moving into the spiritual realm, because I'll always be worried about who's going to pay the bills.
But but would that happen after college, when you realize, after mystic experience? What I'm talking about is like your initial education, your college background,
Sure.
You yourself, like, what was your struggle in life?
Yeah, so something happened in college days. Until then, life was, pretty normal. I wasn't, I didn't have any special leanings. Of course, right from the childhood, I felt different. I felt that I didn't fit in, with my age group or with my peers. I always felt that I could relate more to much older people than my age group.
So you were like mentally grown up, mature.
I don't know what it was, to be honest, Sadhana. I wasn't sure what it is, but now I know. But at that time, I didn't. I didn't feel that I'm mature. I just liked to be with them because they were more grounded, more stable, and they weren't into frivolous things that boys of my age were doing. And I'm talking teenage years.
And here, when you, so when you chose your profession for yourself, was it like a pressure from family, or you yourself decided like to get into some kind of profession?
Very good question. There wasn't any pressure from family, but there was the peer pressure. And, when, for example, after graduating from high school, most of the kids of my age, they were either going for the medical school or engineering. And I didn't really had leanings towards either. My path was, I was writing poetry. I was thinking about the social problems, in
So
the
you said you did engineering. From engineering, that wasn't your passion.
I was a
or
good
aptitude?
student. I was fairly, okay student. I was sincere. Let's put it this way. I wasn't anything like gifted or genius or some of those brilliant students. I was just a sincere student who did everything very sincerely. And I got into a very competitive school, and I graduated. If you want to know that, it's not very important, but it is. If you want to know, I went to the Indian Institute of Technology and did, advanced degree in electrical engineering. And
Which wasn't your passion?
I
and
realized
your
right from day
aptitude?
one that I don't belong
not
here.
you.
So I was reading philosophy,
So
and
wasn't that tough time for you? Like,
oh, it
to-
was
to go
extremely
through all
tough.
that?
Doing something where your heart is not there. So immediately after engineering, I said I'm not going to go and become an engineer because I'm not. So I actually chose to go to the military. And people raised their eyebrows and questioned my decision. My parents were joking about it, that is something wrong with your kid or
Like
something,
after engineering, switch to
yeah, the military. But that's where my heart, and that's a whole different topic. After that, I came to the United States and went to
Yes.
the University of Michigan
And then MBA,
an
you did
MBA
MBA?
from that, and it was a top 10 school. I don't know
But
where
that
it
I
is
can
right now,
understand.
but
Like it's a good match with engineering and the MBA.
it is. I
Right.
mean, people, but I wasn't thinking that. I was just thinking that I need to be at a place where I can be left alone. And somehow I had very extended family way back home in India, and there were too many friends and family around, and I just didn't have the space that I needed at that time. Which coming here to the United States gave me a lot of that.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, at that time. Thank you, appreciate that.
Did you want some coffee?
Then I went to Stanford
Scotch
here. No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Then I went to Stanford here. Just we are in San Francisco right now, in Palo Alto, California, and went and did corporate finance. But that wasn't me all along. I was
Yes.
doing that because I knew that I have to get financial freedom. So I kept doing jobs. They were very.
So it was like from the here. I'm on live chat now.
Sure.
Sorry, it's maybe to you it's like
Say my hi to your
disturbing, but
friends.
yeah. But I will be checking their questions also. So are you saying that it wasn't well planned in your life?
Absolutely not.
Everything was like random.
It wasn't
happened,
random. I was following my heart all along. So when
So
I say
from the very
military,
beginning you
from
were
the
following it.
very beginning, at a certain time, I didn't, because I wasn't so aware at that time of what my heart or anything. for example, going for engineering. I knew it's not what I want, and yet, because of the society pressure and peer pressure, and I was just what, 15, 16, I don't know, whatever time, I graduated from high school, and I went for engineering. But once I went there, I knew this is not what I want. And then I knew that I'm not going to make that mistake. I'm going to follow my heart. I was a decent athlete. I loved sports. I loved,
You did a lot.
teamwork.
Yeah.
Seen many lives, yeah.
And then you were like in the corporate world, you were
Until
like
very
on
recently.
top of like where else can you go after that, right?
And I think it wasn't when you say at the top, yes, I grew up the ladder and reached heights that I'd never imagined, and thank God for that. But, the reason wasn't that I was super brilliant. The reason was that I was authentic. Second, I was hardworking. And third, I did what was needed. But all along, there was a much deeper, I think, connection which we should talk about, and we train people in the trainings about how to raise your vibrations, where everything just starts working. And I think that's, people call it luck, and this, I don't believe in luck. I believe that when you're vibrating when you're vibrating, your vibrations, inner vibrations are at a higher level, then things are taken care of. And that's what happened. I just feel very blessed that I was being taken care of. Yeah.
So
Does that make sense? The whole idea of vibrations, and
yes.
it's not an easy concept, but I really want to stress that it's not just hard work. It's not just intelligence. It's not just, if it was just hard work, how many people work hard, all around us? People work hard manual labor, but are they financially free? There are people who are super intelligent, but they keep working all their life in jobs they hate. They're super brilliant. So where is financial freedom? Where is happiness? Where is fulfillment? What I'm saying is that it's not just merely hard work or sincerity or your education or your qualifications that'll take you where you want to. It's raising and relocating yourself to a very mystical, different level of vibrations, and that's the law of vibrations. Once you start vibrating there, then the whole universe conspires itself, and events and circumstances and the right set of people come in your life that make everything work for you. So it is the mystical element that I'm talking about here.
I have Samantha. She's asking a question. She's saying that when did you explore something that you were a writer?
I was
You
never
are
a writer, Samantha. I'm not a writer, Samantha. It may seem so, but there was so much I wanted to share, and I'm not a speaker either. So I'm not trained as a writer or as a speaker. I just wanted to share my deepest feelings, and also, how my life transpired. So I just felt this urge to share, and that's why it took me 10 years to write, and a lot of people helped me along the way, as you can read in the preface, which I'm very thankful for. But I prefer writing over speaking, let's put it that way. But I'm not a writer.
Is that what you're saying? Like the writing was your hobby?
Still is. I like to express
You used
myself.
to write from your
I
very
like-
young age?
Yes. My first poem actually was at the age of, I don't know, maybe 10 or 11, and the topic was, maybe I can write or read it and put it on podcast, but the topic was about life, and at that age I was questioning things that you would expect from like a 10 or 12-year-old. So I'm surprised myself that there was a seed inside. So I express myself best in terms of writing, but I won't say I'm a writer, that way.
I guess like Samantha, you got your answer.
I appreciate that, Samantha. Thank you for asking. Yeah.
Thank you for giving us your time is precious, we know. But it was like, how people are busy, and it's just they have questions.
This
I guess,
is
like,
this
in
is
a
what I'm
short
here for.
time,
So
as much as I could cover, questions.
Sure.
Yes. Um, so, as far as academic education, your education, you said like it wasn't well planned. Anything in your life, it happened.
They were just coming my way, and I was surprised. If I look back, and like Steve Jobs says, you can only connect the dots looking back. Now I look back, and it just seems like it was all being taken care of. I did not plan to go to IIT, the Indian Institute of Technology, which is a very premier. It's almost like MIT here. And as I said, I wouldn't have imagined in my wildest dreams. I didn't plan to come to University of Michigan, which is a top university here. I didn't plan to go to Stanford. So I have 4 degrees, and yet I am not my degrees. Yet where I am is not because I planned that way. They just happen. They are just like milestones in my journey. And looking back, it seems like it's all connected, but it wasn't planned. But I just kept saying yes. And as you walk the path, the next steps open up. So the way leads to the way. So you should just, all I did was I said yes, and I was ready to take the plunge. I was following my heart, and I wasn't thinking too much. When things showed up, I said, okay, this is what it's meant to be, and if it feels right and it seems right. So I was in touch enough with my heart and with intuition, which is very important. Then I just kept saying yes. And things that didn't feel right, I did say no to them. So I was kind of following the inner guidance. And that's the whole work, that how do you sharpen that inner voice, that inner intuition, and the more you sharpen it and the more close you come to your own heart, then you navigate your path.
I have David. He has a question for you. He is asking, Gurudev Nirmann, how much you value money?
David, I have tremendous.
Good question, David.
No. I appreciate the question, David. I value money a lot. I am not greedy, but I value and I immensely respect the contribution of money. You see, the point here is that it's not the quantity of money that's important after a certain point in time. So once your basic needs are taken care of, everything else is luxury. So the point is that you need to get to a level, David, where you don't have to depend on anybody else for your sustenance of life, nor should you exploit anybody else for maintaining your lifestyle. So you have to figure it out, what kind of money I need in order to create a lifestyle that serves your purpose. And every person has to figure that out. Different needs.
Knows like their different needs, and they know like where the satisfaction level comes.
Correct. So not everybody has to dine in fancy restaurants. Not everybody has to live, on top of a hill in a mansion. Not everybody needs to or wants to drive the fanciest cars. So everybody for themselves, they have to figure it out.
It can give them happiness. That's what you're saying.
That's the point, that if you are driven by how society treats money and the respect, or they think power comes from money, it does if you are in the game of satisfying the society or the other people. But if you're not in that game, and if you're in the game of Zodha, which is you live in the society but you're not part of it, so you're not here for the society, you are here for your own journey. Once you get that point, then very soon you'll get out of the trap of trying to look good in the society and putting on that mask that I'm good, I'm here, I'm at this level, this is what I drive, this is where I live, this is my address. You can get out of that trap, and then you can figure out what is it that I need to be to free up for my spiritual quest. So you have to carry both spirituality and material reality of life together, and not trade off one for the other. That's the whole path of Zodha, which is you carry both material and spiritual quest, and you can do it. That's the whole point. You can have your cake and eat it too, which means you can be rich and be very spiritual too.
So you value money, but you don't value money.
True.
Right,
I get
David?
your point.
I
I
guess
get your
David
point.
got
I think David, you get it, and those who are listening get it. The only thing I would correct myself, I just said rich, and when I say you can be rich and be also spiritual, I actually meant that just because you have a lot of money, it doesn't mean you have to be poor in order to be spiritual. Because a lot of people think that if you have money you cannot be one for the other, you cannot be both, and I'm saying you can have both in any level of abundance. It's your calling, it's you have to decide. And you can have both, but all I'm against is poverty. But still I have tremendous respect and gratitude and compassion for those who are not, they're struggling with money. But the point is that you do not have to renounce money. You don't have to be in poverty, because poverty then you cannot really pursue. When you're poor and you are struggling just to pay your bills, or living on food stamps, again, nothing wrong with that. There are circumstances which we all happen in people's lives, and I wasn't born like rich
So you're
either.
saying that it's not, um, as like people say, like blue collar produces blue collar. You heard that phrase? Like, is that what you're saying? That it's not that you have, if you are a poor person, then you have to live in that circumstances forever. You can take charge and you can change your
Anytime,
life.
absolutely anytime. Blue collar, white collar doesn't mean anything to me. These are just disrespectful words in a way, and I just don't. That's not part of my language. But poor is a circumstance. It's not. It's not a category in itself. It's
And you can
circumstance.
get yourself out of it.
Absolutely, you can. It just takes. That's the whole point. That you need to get in that zone of the miraculous, and that's the whole training. That's this whole book about how do you get. What is that zone of alchemy? How do you get into that dimension? Once you get there, you can have whatever you want, whatever you can really, whatever you can think and imagine, you can have it.
I have 3 people asking us one question. Kelly, Samantha, again David, Stella. All of them are asking one question, that the way you described your background, your educational background, seemed like everything is smooth. Everything is smooth, but so what was in your life which you describe in your first chapter in your book, about painful or disturbing experiences, how that happened in your life?
Yeah,
That's
no,
a
great
good
question.
question.
It's a very good question. So my life, just to expand on this question, my life has not been without struggles. Still there are struggles. Still there are situations. You cannot control those things to come in. It's like yin and yang. So it's not that the road to divinity or the road to abundance is without its problems. Problems are always there. Struggles will always be there. So I just want to make it clear that how you respond to them and your understanding changes about that. So initially they would freak me out, or I would get really disturbed and get all frustrated. Still sometimes I do. And yet you learn as more and more struggles come that it's a phase, it's a circumstance, and that too shall pass. So situations will always come. When you're following your heart and going on a journey without any as a roadmap except your awareness, curvy balls will be thrown at you. Not because somebody is trying to, but that's just how life is. Roses have thorns. So no path is without struggles. What happened in first chapter of my book, which I described 30 years ago, when just graduating out of college.
Kind of intense pain, emotional pain which you experienced.
Yeah. What happened in my life, Sadhana, was I was in a situation where I was in a very deep relationship, and we broke up. So my girlfriend and we broke up, and I was so committed and so all into that relationship that I took it very, very seriously. Almost I didn't know what to do. I was so much dependent on that, and I had so many dreams and imaginations about it. Almost I had put all my it seemed at that time that all my happiness was coming because of that relationship. And when that went away, I just went into very deep dungeons of despair and darkness.
So this is like, I mean, very common, because you're not the only one who experienced that. I guess like all of us one time in life, and that's what they're asking. One more question.
No, let me complete that. Let me fully answer that.
One more question related to this incident, what happened in your life, that the breakup. If you could help our club also in that, because this is the thing which people get stuck into life,
Yeah.
mostly.
So yes, so the mistake I made, and a lot of my friends have made, and people make, and I've made the same mistake many times. I didn't learn in one, and I had bad situations even after that. The problem people make is every time they give the reasons to be happy to something else, something outside. So the object doesn't matter. In that case, it was a relationship. It's same thing happens to people once they get the relationship, then it's a job, or then it's their house or car or their bank balance. And if you take it away, then they go boom, down, right?
Yeah.
So the point I'm making is that the more and more you put the key of your happiness into something outside of you.
External source.
Yeah. So
Could be anything.
that's the whole point, that yes, relationships are great. There's nothing wrong with it. Having a good job is great, nothing wrong with it. Having lots of money or bank balance is great. But if you think that all your happiness is coming from that, then my point is, if that gets taken away, then your happiness will go away, right? If that's
So how did you overcome
that particular incident.
particular situation?
Oh, that's a great question. Actually, you should.
This is a question that everybody is asking.
And I think in the other episode, I know we'll go through each chapter and I'll describe
Yes.
that in more detail. But in my case, that was my mystical experience where I started to work out a lot and run just to get over the trauma and the sadness, and just to clear my head. I would just go out for long runs. So one of those days, and again, you don't want to get too much into it, but it really was a mystical presence or a force. You can call it your higher self, you can call it whatever you want, and we can talk more about it, as I said, which really started to come in my life and guide me. It was literally me being guided on do this, do that, do this. If there was any situation, I just need to go in and be in touch with that presence, which would guide me. Don't go here, go this way. I was literally being guided, hand held. My hand was being held, and I was taken out of the darkness slowly, slowly, slowly. It took a lot of work at my end also.
There you experienced mystic experience.
That was my first
which
time.
transformed your life.
Absolutely, and thereafter many such experiences happened where I felt guided, and that's my big knowing that once you get in touch with this force, which is the source of it all, and I've described that in the later chapters of my book, and we'll talk about it for those who have bought the book, that you don't need anything else except that guidance. So people look upon other human beings to guide them. And my point is, yes, people can sympathize with you, yes, they can listen to your story, but the true guidance comes from inside. And inside means through that connection with that force And once you have that connection established, it's almost like you're tuned into that radio station, everything transforms. So meditation or worship is all, these are all tools to get in touch and secure that connection. So my answer to your friends, David and Samantha, thank you first of all for following
Stella.
me. Stella, thank you guys, I appreciate that. My guidance is that spend more and more time going in. As I say, the only way out is in. So to get out of something, don't go out and start talking to other friends, and you'll get many advices. Some all good intention, but they're not going to help you because all the answers lie inside you, and you need to establish that connection with that force so that you can be guided in the right way.
Yeah, so like, I mean, in heartbreak, a lot of time people, they like to keep themselves, distracted, busy in something, watching videos or talking to people,
Yeah.
or that's what you're saying, that instead of doing that, just meditate, get into yourself.
Yeah, it's fight or flight, right? A lot of people do three things. First of all, they'll blame the other person. So it's always pointing, one finger and three fingers. They come back at you. So first thing is people do, and I did that too. Is initially you deny that what happened, then you start blaming the other person, then anger, and all those are phases. First, so that's the one thing people do. They blame the other person immediately. Second thing is they try to suppress it. You say this didn't happen, or I'm not going to think about it. And third thing they do is distraction. So they would go watch a movie. Nothing wrong with it. I've done that too, but that's not going to solve. It may give you a temporary relief. No, it's sometimes when things are bad, it's okay to talk to a friend or watch a movie. It helps a little bit, but that doesn't take the root cause away. It doesn't solve the root cause. So for solving the root cause, you really have to establish that connection and work on yourself. Get into tools like meditation and which we talk in our trainings to take the root cause out, and don't give the key of your happiness to something outside of you. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does make sense.
And guys, I have deep sympathies for that because those situations are bad, and hopefully you can get out of it.
Michael is asking a question.
Hey, Michael.
He's asking a question that in heartbreak it's difficult to be alone because of the memories. Memories haunt.
Yeah, memories haunt you.
Good
They
question,
did. Yeah.
Michael.
Michael, I appreciate, brother. I've been there, and in those days, I was calling my girlfriend's name out, running at the beach, and I would just call her name out loudly, as you can read in the first chapter. Those are very tough moments, so they haunt you. Allow it. Don't struggle with it. Allow it. It'll happen. So don't resist it. Don't distract yourself. Allow it, and yet don't focus on it. So they will haunt you. So know that that's how things work, right? You cannot say that I'll just blank out and I'll just somehow shield myself away from it. So memories will be there. The memories will always be there. But it's
So no need to escape. But
no need to escape. Let it be
That's
there
what we
and
try to
acknowledge
do.
it. And actually, you should be compassionate towards yourself, and you should literally, say, nurture yourself, and be kind to yourself, and allow it. I'm sure you had some very good moments also in that relationship. So treasure those moments, be thankful for those moments, and move on. But that when I say move on, it doesn't mean you jump into another relationship. But this is a time for reflection, and these are great moments for growth. And what I specifically would advise, Michael, is that nurture yourself, be kind to yourself, and secondly, move your vibrations to a place which is much more empowering. What is your vision? What is your purpose? And move towards that. And when you do that, then the right person will come along. So as I said, the right person, the
Just
right
like Michael Gordon's
Michael
answer.
Gordon. Okay, good. Yeah.
Um, it's there are tons of questions here, but I'm sorry that we cannot cover all these questions, and
Maybe you can
some
email
other
me those,
session
and
we can
yeah.
do it later.
No, I
But
appreciate the questions. I would try my best. If you can email them to me, Sadhana, then I'll do my best to answer
But
those
this is
questions.
our second episode, and in our second episode, we just wanted to know you personally, who you are, your struggle, your past, your mystic experience, and everything. And this is your book we have here.
You really read it. I can see all
Yeah,
the.
beautiful title here. So, so in this show, Awakening with Nirmann, we're gonna cover all the chapters, and we're gonna cover all Zodha, what Zodha means. Um,
That sounds good. If people have purchased the book, and how many pages are there? I believe I've forgotten.
don't look at that
400.
because it's just so
You have really
like,
read it, yeah?
I just keep it like.
How
over
many
there.
times have you
And
read
it's
it?
not. It's not only me that I have read this book. There are a lot of my friends. They borrowed some. Some of my friends also. No, we like to borrow books, but now you have.
I want to thank
But
all
now,
the people.
guys, we have Nirmann with us. So.
Well, I want to thank everyone who has purchased the book. That is very encouraging, and thank you for that. And for all of you who have purchased the book, I will be making this special gift where we'll cover the essence of each chapter through these episodes, so that all
Well,
of
thank you
those
so
will
much.
have a login, and they will have access to those videos where we'll talk about each
And if
chapter.
sometime you could, spare some time for us, what I'm thinking, like we should have a session, like a lecture or something. They could ask, like, I mean, with this live chat was a good idea, but but still, like, they have questions and all.
I'll be happy to do that. Yeah,
yes.
that's a good idea.
Um,
Why don't you check with all the friends here and see what they want, and I'm sure we can. I mean, this is what I'm dedicated to, so we can absolutely do that
Yes.
for friends.
So my last question to you is mystic experience. You know the way you describe in your book that like some figure wearing white, and like with the person, like all of a sudden something happened. How did you feel when it happened to you?
I thought it's my imagination initially, because I thought maybe I'm just imagining, and coming from that cultural upbringing, I thought it's a fragmentation of my mind, and the whole dress up was like a sage, and it's a common way for sages to dress in India. So I thought it's just my mental imagination. So initially I was, but I allowed it because I was in so much pain that it was helping me, and it was a very beautiful feeling. So I thought I'll indulge myself. It wasn't funny at that time,
Give it a chance. Right?
I was in a very bad situation. I was in a very bad
Emotionally
state, yeah. So, and there was no help coming from anywhere. My friends would just say, "Hey, come, let's go out drinking." That's what guys do. Or why don't we? They were trying to set me up with other girls, and thinking I'll forget, all with good intentions, but none of them were helping, and I wasn't even going to try all that. I must admit, I did try to, get drunk once, just so I could, but that made things even worse. So I very quickly realized that that's not the answer.
That's not the answer. Yeah.
But this was very pleasant. Immediately felt there was light, and I felt I was being pulled out of this darkness. Like literally like being
you
pulled
saw
out.
the light. You
I
saw the light around.
I saw it was not very clear. It was light, and then there was this person, and I had my eyes closed, and I could feel the guidance coming, that that you need to do this. I
Where
literally,
were you at that time?
I
Like,
was
I
in
mean, were
my,
you sleeping in your
no, 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 no,
bedroom
no.
or like uh, doing something, or what was happening?
I
that
came back
morning?
from this long run, so I was exhausted. And I closed my room. I came inside. I was living in the officer's mess as a bachelor at that time, and I was single, so I had my room to myself. So I came and I was exhausted after the run. So I just was sitting down on the floor with my back resting on the bed, and I was just sitting exhausted and just trying to you know, I was exhausted, so I was just trying to rest a little bit. So, and I closed my eyes,
And
and
suddenly that figure popped.
yeah, I don't remember exactly how long or when it happened, but and I didn't know what is meditation at that time. I didn't know any of that. I was just a regular, normal guy who was
Yes.
suffering from a heartbreak, and I'm just so thankful that that happened. And as I said, initially I was like, Is this?" But I was so desperate. I said, "Okay, whatever." And this next time, I came back from a run and I again tried to say, okay, bring it back. So slowly it started becoming a deeper connection. And it always happened when I was totally exhausted and I had completely exhausted myself.
So first time when it happened, what was your response?
I thought
Like,
I am
Get
imagining.
scared, or you?
I was a little, not scared, but I was a little like, what is this? I've heard, this is funny and this is weird, and I don't believe in all this. I wasn't particularly religious or anything, so I was just a modern, you know, a guy in the armed forces, planning for and just trying to forget this girl. So, but nothing was helping, as Michael said. That keeps haunting you, and all I could think
memories
of,
comes like
all the
that.
good memories. So when this came, it really started guiding me into practical aspects of literally like tactically do this, do that, and it all started slowly pulling me out of my misery. And it was fantastic, and it continued for many years.
So first time when it happened, and then second time, did you try to resist that? Like, oh no, I'm not going there.
No, I welcomed it. I grabbed it. I said, this is what's really helping me. But I didn't tell anybody.
Wow.
I didn't share with anybody because not even with my roommate. So, I had this.
You thought like people
I,
are gonna think that he's losing.
he's gone crazy. He's loco. It was a 2-bedroom apartment.
Oh.
And I had both of us were single, of course, sharing this 2-bedroom house. There was a little 2-bedroom, but we weren't sharing bathrooms or anything. My fellow officer, he had his room and his bathroom, so I would make sure he's not around when I come back, and then I would literally go in. Now, looking back, it seems like I was meditating, but at that point in time, I didn't know.
You didn't know that you started meditation
I mean,
subconsciously.
I didn't know even how to meditate, right? So for me, it was just close your eyes and just, I knew that before I could close my eyes, I had to go for a long run. So those memories and that trauma is not there, and that all gets out of the way, and I can clear my head, and then I would immediately have that connection. And for years and years, this thing helped me till one day. Actually, that's another thing I want to talk about. If you have one more moment, I was in Italy meditating, and I had this really intense experience where, and it's in one of my articles which I have written, and maybe I'll put it on the blog, where this entity almost said, "It's time for you to let go of me, because you are now holding me as a crutch.
Oh, okay.
So you have to stop asking me questions, and so
Take charge on
charge of yourself." And that was also very uncomfortable because I didn't want to let it go.
Yes.
But my whole
You were
point.
depending so much
Exactly.
emotionally.
So the whole idea of the book and the whole philosophy of Buddha is to take entire responsibility on you
Yourself.
and your own higher self. And we talk about in the training how to connect with your own higher self. versus something. Maybe it was symbolic what I felt, because maybe it was my higher self all along. But then there's a force source which is above your higher self, which is what we talk about in the book a little bit. We'll not too much detail, because then my book would have gone into hundreds of more pages. But we talk about it in higher stages of training, where you can also get in connection with the superconscious, what we call, or that which you call with different names. Once you establish that connection, that's the higher stage than your own higher self. So dropping all the crutches really, and not being dependent on any human being or any outside relationship or your job or your car, is the very first level of teaching that I want to make sure my friends get it, and we will talk more in detail about that. Yeah.
So that was your experience. So then now the question is like, you had that mystic experience, and then slowly, gradually, you were independent and had connection. When did you decide that you should take charge on it and share it with the whole world? And did you feel like this is your responsibility to share it with the whole world?
I don't feel
What
that
was
way.
in your mind?
No, I don't feel that way. It's my responsibility, because I think the world is good the way it is, and people don't need any advice or guidance from anybody else. So neither from me, and the book doesn't talk about any do's or don'ts, or the book actually talks about dropping all the crutches. So I'm not trying to become another crutch for anybody. I don't think of it as my responsibility to save the world. I think the world is good by itself. It doesn't need any saviors. But I do think that I felt a overflowing of joy which I wanted to share. So it was an overwhelming feeling of something beautiful is happening, and automatically I think I felt like sharing it. So as I said, I'm not a writer, but it was this overwhelming feeling that, oh my God, I really want to talk about it. It was that overflowing, and still it is. So I'm not doing it for any other reason than the fact that this is my joy, this is my bliss to talk about it and share it. So I'm not sharing it because anybody needs it, or I want something from anybody. I'm doing it because it's an overwhelming sense of joy and bliss, and I just want to talk about it and share that. So it's just that, and
Beautiful.
yeah, and in that way, if I can be of any help, and we can share and talk as friends, So I don't want to become anybody's guru or anybody's teacher as such, but I do want to acknowledge the fact that I feel that what happened was something very significant, which I don't want to downplay it. So I do want to share what happened, and let people know that there is a higher force that they can tap into, and get away from the exploitation from other people who think that they have all the answers, and they can answer other people's questions and solve their problems. And that's what I would really like to advise my friends, that take the reign of your own life in your own hands and not give it to anybody else. Avoid getting exploited by other people who claim that they can solve your life's problems. They can help, they can give you tools, and like we talk about in our trainings, is tools and methodologies and ideas that can help you take the power back in your own hands and not become dependent on any other guru or so-called saviors.
Yeah, my another question is, yes, I was coming to that question. So what do you think about like these days, like spirituality, like Tom Cruise, Scientology, and other gurus, and there are like so much going on YouTube.
I have seen.
If you have time, or if you're familiar.
I
with
have
all
not.
these.
I've heard Scientology. I haven't. I don't know
But
much about it.
About all this is traffic on the name of spirituality.
I think there's a lot of good there out there, and like in anything, there's a little bit of maybe not so good. I don't specifically. I'm not a student of any other, Scientology. I haven't delved into that, but I'm sure there are some really good
Neither.
things.
I have no idea about Scientology,
No.
but I've heard about
But then there are so many of them, and I look for good in everything. And also, I must say that all religions or all spiritual paths have a lot of good in it. But there's the exoteric part, which is what the masses think, and they just kind of take it at a superficial level where they start copying those other people and idolizing them. But then in every religion, or you mentioned Scientology, there are some very deep esoteric teachings which are understood and appreciated and practiced by a very small number of people. And I've been, as I said, I was initiated into two secret spiritual schools of alchemy, where only esoteric teachings were being given, and I was lucky enough to be a part of that, which enhanced my understanding. That's all. So my only suggestion here is that there's a lot of good out there, and you, like you mentioned this word, you're a cherry picker, and you pick what's
I
good.
am a cherry picker.
You pick, anything. If you find something good anywhere, pick it up. So, and if it serves you, pick it up. So I don't think it's all bad or all good, but you just have to have enough awareness and not become dependent. The whole insistence is don't give the reins of your happiness or your life to anybody else. Take it squarely in your hands and take responsibility of your life. And the right people and the right circumstances and the right events will come your way if you raise your vibrations. And that's the whole work of Sadhana. How to raise your vibrations, how to get at that level.
And I'm sure that this is promising, and it's going to be huge contribution to.
I'm here to help,
To the whole
Sadhana. I'm here to help in any, give my contribution to this world. I'm not the only one. There are people I love, people I look upon as amazing human beings who are doing a lot of good, and I'm doing my bit. So, anybody who likes this thinking and find some peace and love out of this work, welcome to anybody to get in touch and be a part of this work. And without teamwork, nothing happens. So I also appreciate you taking the time and having this conversation. All this helps. So thank you, Sadhana, for that.
Thank you for coming in and giving us time. And hopefully we will go further
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
continue further in your book, and to convey the message to the whole world that there is a way out.
There's
It's
absolutely.
not that we
it's
have
not the
to live
only
in a
way, but
mystery.
it's not the only way out. But there are many ways out. This is one of them, and I'm the living proof of this. As I said, I wasn't like this always, and I'm not the last one. I wasn't the first one, and if I can do it, so can you. So can anybody. That's the only thing I would share. And this is a very beautiful life, and things really start working when you get into that dimension of alchemy. So,
Well, so nice of you that you think in that way, but to me, I have a great respect for you, to dedicating yourself to the community, the whole world, for transformation and your new teaching.
thank you,
And
Pran. I
it's a
appreciate
new
it.
ray of light to me. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I am definitely enjoying it, and I appreciate you also understanding it, and you really eaten this book.
Yes, I have. So for now we are like short of time. Thank you, Nirmann, for coming to us, and we're gonna continue with this book.
Yes, you will.
Our 2 episodes were like just to make clear to the whole world our work and who Nirmann is, and transformation and Zoda. And I'm sure like in our second episode we will get into more detail about this book.
Absolutely.
And about Zoda to explain. And then we have some tools also and some meditation, and it's very promising.
We'll have fun doing it.
Yeah.
And as I think the plan is that for those of you who got the book, we'll go chapter by chapter, and I'll give you the basic essence, and we can also have, I think you're planning something to have question answers.
Yes,
so
question
people
answers.
can.
I was thinking like it must be annoying to you, like live chat, but
No,
but
it's
I
not annoying
appreciate
at all.
that,
No.
I appreciate that the way you answer
Thank you.
all
Thank you
the
to your
questions.
friends. Yeah.
Yes. So for now, goodbye and see you tomorrow. Namaste.
Bye guys. Thank you so much.